Sometimes the smallest things carry the heaviest meanings. A grain of salt, simple, silent, unseen. Yet in the world of the unseen, even this can become protection, healing, and purification. Because when Allah warns us about darkness, envy, jealousy, or hidden harm, He also gives us tools of light. So let's talk about the 7 sacred spots in your home where salt can remind your heart to turn back to Allah. Not out of superstition, but out of faith, surrender, and spiritual cleansing. The first sacred spot is your doorway. Before anything or anyone steps inside, pause and ask yourself, what energy am I inviting in? This is not about superstition, but awareness. Salt here becomes a symbol, a quiet guard standing at your threshold saying, only purity enters this place. Let every guest, every thought, and every word that crosses your door carry goodness, sincerity, and peace. A home's spiritual state begins with what it welcomes. Remember, Allah purifies whom He wills, and sometimes purification begins with what you choose to let in. The second sacred spot is the corners of your home. Every corner holds what we forget. The dust, the shadows, the quiet places we never reach. Just as physical dust gathers there, unseen negativity can too. Salt placed in the corners becomes a reminder to clean what you cannot see, to purify not only your space, but also the corners of your heart. There are places within us we've neglected. Old grudges, hidden pain, silent resentment. As you cleanse your home, ask Allah to cleanse those corners within you. The third place is your window, the opening through which your private world meets the outside one. So much of envy, comparison, and distraction enters through what we see. Salt placed near your window is not magic, it's a message. It says, not everything outside deserves entry. Guard your peace. Protect your contentment. The world outside often tempts us to measure our blessings against others. But Allah reminds us, do not wish for what others have been given. Contentment is the true protection of the heart. The fourth place is your kitchen, where your sustenance transforms into nourishment. Every meal prepared here is a moment of gratitude. Salt in the kitchen becomes a symbol of blessing, of the sacred nature of food. It reminds you that cooking is an act of worship when done with the right heart. When you say Bismillah before preparing or eating, you invite barakah into your home. Every meal can either feed your ego or your soul, and purity and intention is what makes the difference. The fifth sacred spot is the bedroom, a place of rest, vulnerability, and renewal. Salt here whispers protection, not from fear, but from unrest. As you lay down to sleep, ask Allah to protect your dreams, to soothe your worries, and to give peace to your heart. The bedroom is where your soul pauses to recover from the noise of the world. In that stillness, remember that true rest is not in the softness of the bed, but in the calm that comes from remembrance. Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah, hearts find rest. And finally, the most sacred space of all, your prayer spot. This is where your forehead meets the earth and your soul meets its creator. Here, salt becomes a symbol of humility. It reminds you that everything you are, your pride, your pain, your plans, can melt before Allah like salt dissolving in water. This place holds no pretense, no noise, only surrender. When you purify this spot, you are not cleansing the floor, you are cleansing the self that bows upon it. Because in every act of remembrance, the heart learns again what it means to be pure. Every corner of your home carries a quiet story. It is where things settle, where the dust gathers, where the silence hides. These are the places we rarely look at, yet they hold the traces of what we forget. Just like the corners of a room, the corners of our hearts can also gather what we've ignored. Old pain, hidden resentment, or silent disappointments that we never cleaned out. Over time, they begin to weigh on us, even if we cannot see them. The act of placing salt in these corners is not a ritual of superstition, but a symbolic reminder: cleanse what you cannot see, both in your home and within yourself. When salt rests in a corner, it speaks silently of purification. It reminds us that not everything unclean is visible. Sometimes negativity doesn't appear as darkness, but as heaviness, a mood, a feeling, an unseen burden that lingers. Cleaning the corners becomes an act of mindfulness, a way of saying, I see what I have ignored. It's a quiet prayer in motion, an intention to remove what no longer serves your peace. This is how the physical and spiritual connect, through conscious action rooted in remembrance. In the unseen world, there are forces that thrive in neglect. The envy of others, the whispers of worry, the weight of unspoken pain. Just as salt purifies and preserves in the physical world, remembrance purifies and protects in the spiritual one. When you clean your home's corners with salt, pair it with faith decree, with gratitude, with recitation. Let your tongue purify as your hands clean. Let every movement be a form of worship. Every grain of salt a symbol of your trust in Allah's protection. This practice also teaches humility. It reminds you that even the smallest spaces matter. A person who tends to corners, who doesn't overlook what's hidden, is someone who understands the beauty of thoroughness, both in cleanliness and in faith. Neglect begins small, but so does healing. The same way a corner can gather dust, a single good habit can gather light. Salt, in its simplicity, becomes a quiet companion in your journey towards spiritual clarity. And as you finish, notice the stillness that follows. The air feels lighter, the space calmer. That is not just the absence of dust. It is the presence of intention. Every time you clean the corners, you declare to yourself that nothing in your home and nothing in your heart will be left unattended. You are choosing to be aware, to purify, to begin again. That awareness itself is a form of ibadah, an act of worship through mindfulness. So the next time you hold that handful of salt, see it for what it truly is, not just a mineral, but a message. It is a reminder that purity is not found in perfection, but in attention. That healing is not in the grand gestures, but in the small, sincere ones. And that sometimes cleansing a corner of your home can become a doorway to cleansing the unseen corners of your soul. The window is a bridge between your private world and the world outside. It is where the light enters, but it is also where the gaze of others can reach. Through these openings, both beauty and harm can travel. The view from your window can remind you of Allah's creation, the sky, the rain, the birds, but it can also expose you to envy, comparison, and distraction. Salt placed near the window serves as a quiet symbol, a small act of remembrance that not everything outside deserves entry into your peace. It is a way of saying this space is protected, and not all that shines should be welcomed. In our time, so much of what harms the soul enters through sight. What we see affects what we feel, and what we feel shapes how we live. We scroll, we compare, we desire what others have, forgetting that contentment is not found in what we view, but in what we value. The window then becomes more than glass. It is a reflection of your boundaries. Placing salt there is not superstition, it is symbolism. It reminds you to filter what you let into your mind and heart, just as you filter what enters your home. Every heart has its windows too, the eyes. What we expose ourselves to daily builds or breaks our peace. When we constantly look outward, our inner world begins to shrink. Salt at the window teaches restraint. It whispers that not every image is worth your attention. Not every story deserves your comparison. What Allah has written for you will reach you. Even if you close every window, and what was never meant for you will not enter, no matter how wide they are open. There is also something deeply humbling about acknowledging our vulnerability to the unseen. The evil eye, jealousy, or ill intent, they are real yet subtle. Protecting your space with remembrance, dua, and symbols of purity like salt is an act of awareness, not fear. You are not placing your trust in the salt. You are placing it in Allah, who is Al-Hafiz, the protector. The salt only reminds your heart of that trust, that everything that enters your home should first pass through His name. The act of purifying your windows can also become a ritual of gratitude. As you clean the glass or place salt upon the sill, take a moment to thank Allah for the roof over your head, for the safety of your family, for the light that still finds its way in. Gratitude itself is a protection, for a thankful heart cannot coexist with envy. Every glance outside then becomes a moment of reflection rather than comparison, a way of seeing the world without letting it disturb your peace. So, when you stand by your window and look out, remember that the world outside is temporary, fleeting, and full of illusion. The true view that matters is the one within, the state of your heart. Salt by the window is only a signpost, a gentle reminder to guard your peace, to choose stillness over comparison, and to let the light in while keeping the noise out. What matters most is that your home and your soul remain spaces of remembrance, not competition, protected, content, and connected to Allah. The kitchen is a sacred space, even if it doesn't always feel that way. It is the heart of the home, where sustenance is transformed into nourishment, and where blessings become visible in the form of food. Every ingredient that enters your kitchen carries a story. How it reached you, how it was provided, how it becomes part of your family's life. Placing salt in this space is not just an old tradition. It's a reminder that what happens here is spiritual. It is where gratitude should live, because food is not just a gift from Allah. It is a test of appreciation, generosity, and awareness. When you cook, you are doing more than preparing a meal. You are engaging in an act of service, and if your intention is pure, it becomes an act of worship. Saying Bismillah before you begin transforms ordinary actions into sacred ones. The salt you add to your food and the salt you keep in the kitchen both symbolize balance. A balance between the body and the soul. Just as too much salt spoils a meal, too much attachment to the material spoils the heart. Moderation, humility, and gratitude are what make both food and faith taste beautiful. Every meal you prepare holds spiritual energy. It can either feed the ego through pride, waste, and excess, or it can feed the soul through care, sharing, and remembrance. The kitchen becomes a place where character is cooked alongside the food. Are you patient while preparing it? Are you grateful for what you have, even if it's simple? Are you sharing it with others, even a little? These small choices are reflections of your inner state, and Allah sees every one of them. Salt in the kitchen becomes a symbol of purification, cleansing your intentions and aligning them with gratitude. In many homes, the kitchen is also where hearts meet. Families gather, stories are shared, and warmth is created. It's where love is served without words. Yet sometimes it's also where frustration, rush, or resentment can grow. In those moments, the symbolic presence of salt reminds you to pause and purify your mood. It's a quiet nudge from Allah to turn your routine into remembrance. Because when your heart is peaceful, even the simplest meal can carry the sweetness of barakah. There's also something deeply humbling about realizing that the food you prepare is not truly from your own effort. You may chop, mix, and stir, but provision, rizq, is written by Allah alone. Salt in your kitchen whispers that reminder. It says, you do the work, but He gives the blessing. It's an anchor for humility, A way to remind yourself that the taste of what you make depends not only on ingredients, but on the intention behind them. So, when you stand in your kitchen, take a deep breath and feel the sacredness of that space. Remember that every grain, every bite, and every sprinkle of salt carries meaning. Cook with remembrance, serve with love, and eat with gratitude. Because food is not only nourishment for the body, it's also medicine for the heart when it's made with faith. The kitchen then becomes more than a room. It becomes a place of spiritual alchemy where the ordinary becomes worship and where salt becomes a small, silent prayer for purity and blessing. The bedroom is a place where the noise of the world finally fades. It's where your heart softens, where masks are removed, and where you meet the quiet version of yourself. The one that doesn't pretend, doesn't perform, and doesn't hide. This space holds your vulnerability, your exhaustion, and your deepest need for rest. When you enter this room, you're not just stepping into a physical space. You're entering a sanctuary where the soul seeks peace. Placing salt here is not about superstition but symbolism. It's a gentle reminder that even in rest, you need protection, not from visible harm, but from the unseen heaviness that can settle on the heart. Nighttime is when the world slows down and the thoughts we've been running from finally catch up. The mind begins to replay worries, regrets, and unfinished prayers. It's in these hours that the whispers of anxiety often grow loudest. Salt in the bedroom serves as a soft sign of remembrance, a quiet message to your soul that peace comes from Allah alone. As you prepare to rest, say His name. Ask Him to cleanse your heart of fear, to cover you with His mercy, and to guard your dreams from the noise of the unseen. When you remember Him before sleeping, your rest becomes an act of worship. There is something sacred about sleep, a reminder of death and resurrection. Every night, your soul is taken, and every morning it is returned. Each time you wake, you are gifted a new chance to begin again. That is why the Prophet taught us to end our day with remembrance, to sleep in a state of purity, and to trust that Allah will hold our souls gently through the night. Salt in the bedroom, though simple, becomes a symbol of that trust, a way of saying, I rest in your care. It's not the salt that protects, but the awareness it awakens in your heart. Your bedroom should be a place of peace, not chaos. Keep it free from arguments, clutter, and distraction. This is where you recharge your spiritual and emotional strength. Just as you clean your body before bed, clean your mind with forgiveness. Release what hurt you during the day. Forgive those who wronged you and ask Allah to forgive you. True rest is not just the stillness of the body, but the stillness of the heart. When your heart is at peace, your sleep becomes light, and your waking feels like renewal. In the stillness of night, there is an invitation from Allah, a call to those who seek closeness. When the world sleeps, the most merciful listens. If rest escapes you, rise and pray. The quiet hours before dawn are not meant for fear, but for intimacy with your Creator. Salt in the bedroom, again, is only a reminder of that spiritual quiet, a symbol that this space is meant for calmness, reflection, and connection with the one who never sleeps. So when you lay your head down, breathe deeply and let go. Let go of worry, of control, of everything you carried through the day. You were never meant to bear it alone. Whisper your prayers, release your pain, and remember that peace is not found in the comfort of the bed, but in the remembrance of Allah. In His name, rest becomes healing and sleep becomes surrender. For in the remembrance of Allah, truly hearts find rest. There is a space in every home that carries more light than the rest. The place where you bow down. It might be a small corner, a simple mat, or just a quiet patch of floor, but it is where your soul finds its true posture in surrender. This is not just a spot where prayers are said. It is where burdens are dropped, where tears fall unseen, and where hearts remember who they belong to. Placing salt here is not for the ground, but for the heart. It serves as a gentle reminder that purification begins from within, that humility is the true fragrance of faith. When you kneel before Allah, you are not showing your weakness, you are returning to your origin. The forehead that touches the ground is the same one that carries pride during the day, and every prostration is an act of breaking that pride. Salt in this place becomes symbolic of melting. Melting ego, melting pain, melting illusions of control. Just as salt dissolves in water, the self should dissolve in the presence of the divine. Every sujud whispers the truth your soul already knows nothing remains but Him. The prayer space should be kept pure, not only in its appearance, but in its energy. It is a place of stillness, and that stillness is sacred. When you enter it, leave behind the noise of your thoughts, the rush of your routine, and the heaviness of your world. Even if your mind wanders, let your body remind it through bowing that peace is not outside. It is in submission. Salt here serves as a symbol of clarity, a way to remember that every distraction can be purified through remembrance, every impurity washed away with sincerity. This is also the place where the unseen meets the seen. Angels witness the one who prays in silence, and the ground itself bears testimony. Imagine, the very floor where you place your head will one day speak on your behalf. Knowing this changes the way you stand, bow, and sit. It makes every prayer sacred beyond words. Salt in this space, again, is not protection from harm, but a soft reminder that the space you pray upon holds your history, your struggles, your tears, and your repentance. When life becomes heavy and your heart feels lost, return to this spot. Sit there even in silence. Sometimes you won't have words, and that's okay. Allah understands the language of tears and the pauses between your breaths. This is where the soul heals, where the unseen becomes intimate, and where faith quietly rebuilds itself. Even when your voice shakes, your sujud steadies you. It tells the world, I am small, but I am held. So, when you see that small pinch of salt near your prayer place, remember what it truly means. It is not a charm, it is a symbol. That purity is not a state you reach once, but a process you live every day. That surrender is not weakness, but strength. And that in every prostration, your soul returns to what it was always meant to be: humble, pure, and at peace in the presence of its creator. So when you place salt in these 7 sacred spots, don't think you're fighting darkness with a ritual. You're fighting it with remembrance. Because Allah's warnings aren't meant to frighten. They're meant to wake you. And sometimes even a handful of salt can remind your soul purity begins with intention.